Think about the last time someone at work, a manager, a coworker, someone with a little bit of power over your situation, said or did something that was clearly wrong. Maybe they spoke to you in a way you didn't deserve. Maybe they passed you over for something you'd genuinely earned. Maybe they just made it obvious, without saying it directly, that your effort wasn't being valued. And think about what you did in that moment. My guess is you didn't say much. You might have felt the anger. You might have replayed it on the drive home. You might have talked about it with someone close to you later that night. But in the moment, you let it go. Not because it was fine, not because you agreed with it, but because somewhere underneath the surface, there was this quiet calculation happening. I need this. I can't afford to make this worse. And so you swallowed it. And that feeling, that specific feeling of knowing something is wrong and not being able to do anything about it, is one of the most corrosive things a person can carry. Because it doesn't stay in that one moment. It follows you everywhere. What I want to talk about is a specific kind of confidence that most guys in their 20s either never develop or develop way too late. It's not the confidence that comes from being naturally outgoing, or from looking a certain way, or from telling yourself positive things in the mirror. It's much quieter than that, and it's much more powerful. It's the confidence that comes from knowing in a very real and concrete way that you could walk out of any situation you're in and be okay. That you are somewhere by choice, not by need. And the reason most people don't have this isn't because they're weak. It's because they haven't done the actual work to earn it. Because this kind of confidence isn't something you think your way into. You build it. And that distinction matters more than almost anything else I could say today. There's something that happens to a person when they genuinely feel like they have no options. And I'm not talking about a dramatic situation. I mean the everyday, ordinary feeling of being in a job or a circumstance where leaving feels impossible. The costs are real, and they show up in ways that are very hard to trace back to the actual source. The most obvious cost is how much you end up tolerating that you shouldn't. When you feel trapped, your threshold for putting up with disrespect goes way up. Things that would be completely unacceptable to a person with options become things you just absorb. A manager who speaks to you in a tone that's demeaning, a culture that makes you feel invisible, being passed over, being undervalued, being treated as replaceable. And you take it, not because it's right, not because you think it is, but because the alternative feels too risky. This is what powerlessness actually looks like in practice. It's not dramatic, it's just this quiet daily compromise of your own dignity that slowly adds up over months and years. But there's another cost that's even more damaging, and it's entirely internal. When you feel trapped somewhere, you start to over-invest emotionally in that place because it matters too much. If this job is your only option, then every small conflict at work becomes a crisis. Every shift in the atmosphere hits you harder than it should. Every performance review carries a weight it was never meant to carry. You simply cannot be neutral about something you desperately need. And that emotional investment costs you enormous energy. Energy you're not spending on building anything better. I've sat in environments where the culture was wrong, where I could feel clearly that my value wasn't being seen, where I knew I was giving more than I was getting, and still stayed, still managed my expression, still showed up and said nothing. Not because I was fine with it, but because I felt like I couldn't afford not to. And that feeling is a tax you pay every single day you're in that position. It drains you in a way that's genuinely hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. And the worst part is, most of the energy you're losing isn't going to anything useful. It's just being burned by the anxiety of needing the one thing you have. Here's what I need to be honest about, because this is where a lot of advice on this topic falls apart. The exit mentality, this sense that you're somewhere by choice and could leave whenever you decided, is not something you just decide to feel. You can't read something motivational and suddenly have it. You can't look in the mirror and tell yourself, I could leave anytime, and have that actually change anything if you know deep down that you couldn't. The confidence has to be real. And for it to be real, it has to be earned through actual preparation. What that preparation looks like is very concrete. It means knowing your floor, the fallback that exists if everything else disappears tomorrow. It means having skills that translate outside of one specific workplace. It means maintaining contacts, people who know your work, people who could connect you to opportunities, people who actually know who you are and what you're capable of. It means understanding what the market actually pays for what you can do, so you're not operating on some vague sense of your own value. You know it specifically, because someone in a position to know has told you. It means doing enough outreach, having enough conversations with people outside your current situation that you can honestly say, if I walked out of here tomorrow, I know exactly what I would do next. And this is not a one-day project. It's not something you do once and check off. It's an ongoing awareness of your own position in the world. Keeping your options alive. Not waiting until you're desperate to start thinking about alternatives. Because when you're desperate, you can't think clearly anyway. And every decision you make from desperation will reflect that. The people who move through their careers with that quiet, unshakable confidence, who never seem rattled, who always seem to land on their feet, aren't born different from you. They did the unglamorous work of knowing their options before they needed them. And because of that, they're never genuinely trapped. Even when they stay somewhere, they stay because they chose to, not because they had to. When you actually have the exit mentality, not as something you're trying to fake your way into, but as something grounded in real preparation, the way you move through the world shifts in ways that are hard to fully anticipate until you experience it. The most immediate change is at work. When you know you could leave and be okay, you stop needing the approval of the people above you in the same way. You still do good work, maybe even better work, but you're not doing it from a place of fear. You're doing it because you take pride in your craft, or because it serves your own growth, or simply because it's the right thing to do. And people can sense that difference. There's a quality to someone who doesn't desperately need the room they're in, that commands a kind of respect you simply cannot manufacture. You stop shrinking yourself to fit. You stop absorbing things you shouldn't. And paradoxically, you often get treated better, because the version of you that isn't walking on eggshells is a more direct, more grounded, more confident version that people respond to differently. You stop being managed and start being respected. But this goes far beyond any one job. Think about any situation in your life where you feel like you genuinely need something, really need it, in a way that removes your ability to think clearly about it. That need makes you smaller. It makes you tolerate things you shouldn't. It makes you say yes when you mean no, stay when you should leave, and give ground on things that matter to you because the alternative feels too dangerous. The exit mentality, when you actually build it, gives you a different relationship with almost everything. You start showing up to situations as someone who is choosing to be there. And that shift from needing to choosing is one of the most important transitions you will ever make. There's a simple idea I keep coming back to, and I want you to really hear it. Wherever you are there by choice. Not by luck, not by necessity, not because you had no other option and this was all that was left. By choice. And the moment that becomes genuinely true, not just something you say, but something you can actually back up with real preparation, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your standards change. Your tolerance for what you'll accept changes. Because you know, in a way that's bone deep and unshakable, that you don't have to be anywhere you don't want to be. And that knowledge is something nobody can take from you. No employer, no circumstance, no bad month. It belongs to you completely because you built it. The exit mentality isn't about being restless or always looking for the next thing or being someone who can't commit. It's about having done the work, real, concrete, unglamorous work, to know that you have genuine options. Because when you have real options, you stop needing things in a way that makes you controllable. You stop absorbing disrespect because the alternative feels too scary. You start showing up as the full version of yourself, not a managed, careful, smaller version that's constantly calculating what it can afford to say. And the irony is that this tends to make you better at everything. Better at your work, better in your relationships, better at building whatever it is you're trying to build. When you're not spending all your energy managing the fear of losing the one thing you have, you actually have something left over to create more things with. Start building that now, not when things get bad, now. Because the confidence you want is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is built quietly and consistently with the work you do today. Think about one concrete thing you could do this week to know your options a little better. One contact you could reach out to. One alternative you could research. One conversation you could have. That's it. Just one. Drop it in the comments if you want. Sometimes saying it out loud is the first real step toward actually doing it. And if this landed for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.